Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 14 of Webflail, the podcast dedicated to uncovering the greatest failures behind the greatest webflowers, because success often comes after learning from many failures. I'm your host, Jack, a failure connoisseur, and today my guest is Ben Celinski, Webflow developer and UI designer. From Poland originally, Ben now lives in Ireland. Ben's website says many freelancers produce quick, non sustainable websites lacking strategy, usability, and product market fit. This is never the case with me. Ooh, interesting. Honor to have you, Ben.
Honor to be here. Thanks, Jack. And I'm super appreciate what you're doing with the podcast. So I wanted to say it loud as the first thing. It's
Oh,
super
thank
important, and you're bringing like reality into the community, which is always a good thing. Like listening to other people going through stuff and seeing how it's all not perfect, or like it builds up correct expectations, I would say.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope we kind of uncover um, the truth, or start to uncover, the truth about freelancing and agency running, because I feel like there's a lot of hype, and it's important to try and shed a bit of light on that, hopefully. Um, but yeah, at the end of the episode, we'll do some questions that I've got from Twitter. And if anyone drops into the stream, please do ask any questions, I meant to say. So let's get into this thing. Ben, I'm interested on what your website says. Many freelancers produce quick, non sustainable websites lacking strategy, usability, and product market fit. This is never the case with me. Why is that?
hmm So I hope it didn't sound like complaining about other freelancers too much. Um, so basically, I never like take on too much projects at the same time. This is like one thing, because I think a lot of freelancers tend to sort of like put four, five, six projects at the same time, and then like try to manage it all. And then what it does is it gives you obviously like less space to focus on each one, because it's just impossible at from some point, right? The second of all, I think I have, I mean, on average, I would say I'd have more experience working with internal teams, working with people from marketing, with people from business, with people from like other departments at companies, because the freelance word um, is a pretty lonely word. So oftentimes you want to get into it from another industry, and you start working solo, and you're like you're figuring things out as you go, which is a good thing, and everybody does this. um, but for example, like in my case, I was working as an in-house UI UX designer before, in teams. So first I was working for a big company, then I was working for a software house, then I was working for an agency. So it's I got this different experience, and I think it taught me a lot about handling big projects, doing estimates, talking to people from different departments, learning about their expectations. And this is the stuff that you first, like, you learn it over time, and then you have to be open and collaborative with other people doing other things than what you're doing. And then because of it, I am now able to say that I have this context, I have this experience that I bring to the table, and I'm just a person you know who can collaborate on big projects with people from different departments, and everybody will be okay with it, hopefully, because um, I know pretty much what are the expectations typically, and how different people can look at the same websites with different eyes. So, and that's also one of the big learnings, I guess, from my career.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of Webflowers come into Webflow kind of as a freelancer straight away, and they're kind of making it up as they go along, trying to build the plane while flying it type thing. That was certainly my experience. And then when you join an agency or you take part in agency work, you're like, whoa, okay, there's so much stuff, like so many steps that I didn't have in my process. There's a focus on SEO, which maybe I hadn't had before. And it was kind of like I was just doing animations. And now I'm like, oh, accessibility, etc., etc. Do you think that if you were to roll back the years and start again with Webflow, I mean, it sounds like you've done it the right way in terms of starting with bigger organizations like agencies, working in-house teams, and then branching out to freelance on your own? Or what do you think about that?
That's an interesting one, because I would say that the grass is always greener, because, like, I would prefer to be probably a developer first going into Webflow. So I'm not too happy that I didn't have the developer experience before. But I talk to developers frequently who are not happy that they didn't have design experience before. So, like, grass is always greener on the other side. But I'm definitely happy, regardless of like being a designer or a developer first, or just like non-IT person first. I think it's a very good experience to have to not work solo before jumping into freelance, because what it gives you is it gives you awareness. And awareness is an important thing, because like technical skills is one thing, and it's obviously like to some point it's just the base, right? Like if you don't have this base, it will be difficult. But from some point, I feel like clients need, like, it's not the number one need from some point. So there is a point that, okay, number one need from my client is that I will be able to produce this website, right? But as like in the moment of keeping up to like this level, reaching this level, I'm at my base right now, then clients tend to care more about feeling secure with you, feeling secure with your process, trusting like your abilities, trusting your communication, etc. And this is these are all the things that you build from experience and from collaborating with different people. You can't build this like working in isolation. So I think like the more you can be around all of this and just like absorbing it. So it's not even like you need to know so much about SEO or marketing, etc. But if you're working collaboratively and these topics come up, you sort of, you start to see that, oh, so this is a consideration, this is a consideration, this is a consideration. And you're building that awareness that you wouldn't think is important, or you wouldn't think is there. So yeah, I think it is helpful to have that background. I wouldn't say it's necessary, but I would say it's helpful.
So that's interesting what you said there. So there seems to be, when you work in bigger teams, you learn the soft skills side of like the client management side of things, maybe more, because you're aware of, there's different considerations from the marketing team. You need to have this thing from the, 3D, the Blender guy. there's this thing, there's like different people that you need to manage. And that really helps when you're a freelancer to actually manage the client process, because the client is not just paying you to make a website. The client's actually paying you to guide them through the process. And the end result is a website that not only works, but, they can actually use it moving forward. So having that experience in a wider team really, really helps. So there's kind of two things there. There's soft skills and there's the awareness that comes with having, worked in a team that I think is really, really interesting. And you definitely seem to be someone that really values the process. I've heard you talk on a podcast with Joe Krug, the FinSuite, saying that you're not going to do quick jobs. That's not your style. You're not a quick, like in and out type of Webflower. You are someone that's looking for more like a collaboration throughout the client Webflow relationship. Why have you come to that conclusion?
Many reasons. I think that it also like probably comes through my design past, because I spend a lot of time like learning about, UX process, about web design patterns, about, like usability type of things. And I think we tend to, at least that's the impression I get from socials, that sometimes we get to like focus on effects. And I had the conversations with, like potential clients or agencies, etc. And they were trying to, like they wanted me to join their team by, like describing me, oh, we won these awards, or we did this website, and I see it's a very, it's a very cool website from the, visual standpoint. But you sort of feel when it's focused on, again, like on the effects. And for some websites it's okay, but it's not like every website needs to have it. And in terms of the speed, let's bring the Relume example. Relume, I love you guys. So they're doing the, I think it's called like the Design League or Speed Design League. Like they're doing the streams where it's like, design, design landing page in 30 minutes or something. I would probably die doing this. And yeah, I feel like it just, you have two different types of designers. So you have designers who are like artist type. And artist type is typically, somebody who has like creative flows and is just like, I don't have to be very organized or meticulous with the process. I can just,
it'll come together.
Fly through it. Yeah, it will come together. But I'm not that type. I'm the opposite type. I need to have, I need to have my process, and I think I need to have the space to think, because it's not like when I'm building a website, I'm not building a visual layout only. I'm building a way of communication. I'm building a marketing channel, and I'm building, a product connecting what different departments need. So for me, it's a heavy thought process that goes into the designing. It's not just, these are the colors, these are the fonts, boom. So yeah, that's just the type of person I am, and I also think that by not focusing on speed, the website should be a better product in the end, and that you're not giving wrong expectations to your clients, because clients sometimes can think that design is, again, like just visual drawing. And if they think that design is just visual drawing and not the whole thought process behind it, then it builds up the expectations of, like lowering the value they see in design, and also like expecting it to be just quick. And again, like for some freelancers, it's fine. I think that the subscription-based model is perfect for this type of work. But I wouldn't say it's for everybody and not for every business. So, different clients want different freelancers, I think.
Yeah. Interesting what you say about the two different types of Webflow is the kind of artist type or the structured type. I guess the effectiveness of the website for the client's goals kind of depends. Like they'll hire the freelancer that may be like the awards type freelancer maybe versus someone that's making super fast, quick loading websites that maybe are more like less aesthetically pleasing perhaps, but actually more effective in the long run potentially. So I guess it's important for Webflowers to kind of choose who they, which style of Webflow they want to be, because that in itself, I think, is a niche for Webflowers to be. I make awards websites type freelancer, or potentially I'm more focused on the kind of results of my client, looking at SEO, load time, etc. Should we jump into the failures now? So tell me about failure number one, not asking yourself what you wanted to do.
Yeah, super big one, super general one. But it's like I feel like it's overshadowing my career in a way.
This is about purpose, though, isn't it? Really?
Yes and no. So it is about purpose, but it is also about like listening to who you are and if what you do matches with who you are or who you want to be. So this is this sort of like giving you this space for self-reflection on where you are, and this sort of like leaving all the things that you think you should be doing or that other people do, so you should be doing that, etc., and just like listening to what's inside you, right? So for me, the first time I experienced this was pre-IT, because I did 5 years of studying law. I have actually a law degree. After 5 years, I spent, I think, like 2 of these 5 years working also while studying. So I got the work part, I got the study part, but that was not what I wanted to do, and it took me 5 years to like get out of it. And it wasn't easy, because it's harder to leave 5 years of hard work behind than it is to leave a year of hard work behind. So it builds up, and I think that was partly because I wasn't aware of other options. So like for example, I learned that there is a job called UX designer while being at 4th year of my law studies. Like I had no idea this job even exists. I thought just probably graphic designers were making websites. Like that's so far in the past that I don't recall what I thought back then. But I think it was this, again, like lack of awareness and lack of thinking like I am able to actually change my career that drastically, because it's a drastic change. Like there's zero connection between doing law and doing UX design or Webflow development, like zero. So it was a bit about like first having the time to actually like think on, is this what I want to do for the next God knows how many years, and then trying to find a way or like create a space to actually like learn something new, and just like carve out the time to explore and to experiment. Because now I think that you discover what you want to do by trying out different things, experimenting, and then thinking, okay, did I enjoy this? Or how did I feel about that? Or do I enjoy learning that? You know, um, but I feel like I didn't ask myself enough of like, do I enjoy this and how do I feel about this? Leaving all the things like, um, like money, prospects, security, and all of that stuff, like leaving it aside for a while, because it is important. But if you're having a job where you feel like you're secure and you're earning good money, but you're just like forcing this and you don't enjoy it, and you feel like you can't be yourself in this job, then I would say it's not worth it, honestly. So, and it took me a lot of time to figure it out.
It's interesting how you talk about self-reflection being the key to, the first step in this process to actually understand, am I happy? Am I not? And how do I feel about what I'm currently doing? And I've heard you talk about this in the context of after a Webflow project, even if you're taking on another project straight after, like taking the time to just be like, right, what went well, what didn't go well, what skills do I need to improve upon? Was it, did I handle the client well? Was the offboarding process what I wanted it to be? And go through it quite methodically to actually understand how you can improve. But it's interesting that you have that same process, but on a macro scale with your life to, be like, am I enjoying myself? If not, how can I carve out time to learn something else to then, get to where I want to be? So I think it's really, really good advice to just take a second and just ask yourself how you're feeling more than we probably do.
Yeah,
I think a lot of the time, some Webflows, and we were talking before the stream, a lot of Webflows are kind of doing 5 projects simultaneously, and you're like, how the hell do you even have the space to kind of mentally, understand where you're at if you're kind of on the go the whole time? So I think it's
true.
really important.
And if I can say only like one more about this, so like I don't want to say that you should be doing it, like daily or super frequently, because like your mind needs a rest. So you can't just like analyze every second of what you're
Yeah,
doing,
sure.
because like that's too far. But I think it's important to have regular catch-ups with yourself,
Yeah.
about this stuff. And I also started, I changed my approach actually to like taking the notes after the project. Right now I'm taking the notes while the project is still going, because I found that I was losing like half of my thoughts that I thought I will remember, and then the project ended and I just forgot. So right now, when I'm experiencing something in the project and I feel like, this can be a learning for future, like I will stop everything I'm doing and I will write it down.
That's
So
fascinating. Do you do that on Notion, or do you have a
yeah,
kind of
I don't
yeah,
have it very organized, but yeah, I'll just quickly, type it out in Notion, and then I have the space to come back and sort of, reflect after the project, but it will be there, so I won't forget it.
that's really, really cool. I feel like I should do that more because yeah, a lot of the time the problems that we have are very fixable, but unless we know what those problems are by just sitting down and being like, okay, what has gone wrong during this project? How can I prevent that happening again? Yeah, it sounds like a really solid process to do that with. Tell me about failure 2. Thinking about thinking that clients care about the same stuff that you care about?
That one comes from, again, having the collaborative experience with people from different departments. Because I think and it's the same with designers and webflowers. We live in a bubble. We hang out with each other. We see cool stuff. We see cool designs. We are inspired by them, blah, blah, blah. But it creates a common understanding between the design community and the Webflow community, probably, of which websites are cool and why. And because we hang out with each other and we don't hang out with people doing other things in IT so much, we just have this idea, right? And then, for example, like I know as a Webflow developer that if I want to develop a great website which also performs well, I need to be doing this and this and this and this. And then you go to the project and suddenly you don't have the time for these things, or your client doesn't appreciate it and you're angry about this because you're feeling like, I'm trying to put the quality work in and I don't have the space for it, or I'm not appreciated for it. And it can create, like frustration, stress for you, etc. very easily. And I think it was a case with me for a while, like learning this, because I used to be, again, like annoyed and a bit angry about this, that I'm working with people who don't appreciate that extra 10% we can bring to the table. And I think after a while you see their perspective more, because again, like you can have the person from a marketing team looking at your website and they will have other priorities than you, because you're as a developer, your priority is that the development should be good. As a designer, your priority is that this design should be good. But we forget that the marketer's priority is that the marketing stuff should be good and the copywriting, right? The salesperson priority is that the sales should be good and that the website should be optimized for sales. So then you get the different departments wanting your website to be optimized for different things, and it's a balance. So, and you have the deadline on top of it and budget on top of it, blah, blah, blah. So it's a balance between all those things. It's like you have like the range slider, right? And then you're just like, you're bringing this stuff in, and then you're trying to like balance it out to include all these things. But the more you take from one part, the less you take from the other, I guess. So it's like, if you have an award-winning website, I bet that at least half of them are hard to maintain. Because, for example, first example, you have the sophisticated heading animation. Boom, 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 boom. Each letter, looks amazing, right? And then try to change the heading, or your client wants to just completely change this heading, or make the heading 5 words where only 2-word heading words works, etc., etc. So we have all these little things that come into play, and it's your job to make sure to align with your clients on what are the priorities and what type of website is achievable to meet those priorities. And yeah, coming back to the failure, I think I was overly focused on the design and development part of it, and it took me a while to realize that other perspectives are also important, and it's not like attacking my way of working, but it's just like taking care of what your work is, and it's natural that people do that. So as long as we respect each other's professionalism and expertise, if I respect somebody from sales and their perspective, and somebody from sales respect myself and my design and dev perspective, we will be fine, and we'll find the middle ground. And that was the learning from.
And I definitely think, though, that there's two things that I found really helpful, and if you resonate with this, do say. One, having Loom videos to explain why decision making, what the process of decision making is. If I have made a decision and then the client pushes back, and I'm like, here is why, show another website, or show, I don't know, page speed insights or whatever. And then the other thing is, in meetings throughout the project, have key stakeholders all in the room, all in the, Zoom call or whatever, to ensure that everyone feels that their voice has been heard. Because I think that sometimes comes into play where you have the marketing team that weren't invited to a meeting, and then they send you like an angry message afterwards. And you're like, okay, so what I should have done actually is just had them to the meeting, and then we could have explained the decision-making process. Because I think people feel that their ego has been hurt a lot of the time. Is there anything else that you feel is really, really important to align the client and the different stakeholders, if it's a larger company, like marketing team, sales team, whatever, to ensure that everyone agrees what that alignment is and the priorities are?
I'm actually going through that right now in one of my projects. So 100% +1 on the Loom thing. Loom is amazing. I would say that it is important to, again, not rush through the beginning phase of the project, because the beginning phase is when you set the expectations. So if you do it wrong, you will have troubles, because then all sorts of, again, like hurt egos and just like different point of views, they will come up at some point. So it's super important to not rush through this. And for example, like I can't share the details, but I can share something. So for example, if we do a rebrand and we're doing a new website, right? And you have a company, you have people from other departments. You can do things like, brand exercises, or things like, what do you think? Like, just ask, what do you think, or how do you think that your new website should look and feel? Like, give me 3 words, right? Collect them from different people. And then, first of all, what you have is you have a perfect high-level overview of whether people at this company want the same type of website or not. Just by doing that, you just like that, you see it. And then you align on priorities, and you do, okay, so we came to the conclusion that here are our wish list, and now we need to decide on the priorities, because we can't build a website that will have all of these things, because it's impossible. So when you align on the priorities, then show examples. And if you say something is impossible and doesn't make sense, show examples. Do the Loom, show examples. If you align on priorities, and the client, says, oh, we want a website that will be, playful, friendly, and interactive, right? um, make sure that you are on the same page of what does playful and interactive mean, actually, because it can mean totally different things to different people. And here's also when like Loom comes into play, and just show real examples. Like apart from just showing maybe designs, concept, wireframes, don't be afraid to show other websites and say, okay, this is the website that is playful, or maybe interactive is a better example. This is a website that is interactive. This is a website that is interactive, but they are interactive in a different way, right? And then which way of interactivity do you think would be the best? And also like give your opinion on, what do you think as a designer or a developer that would be the right kind of interactivity for this website. So this is just one example, um, but yeah, I would say it's super important to work your way to have one common level of understanding of what type of website you're building. Because if you skip this, then some people will get angry pretty soon.
You're in a hot mess. So what you said there, just to understand and recap: one, ask different stakeholders. If you're working on a big project, different stakeholders within that company, 3 words to describe how they want the website to look and feel. And then once you've understood and aligned with everyone what those 3 words should be, then understand visually what those words look like by showing different website examples and saying, hey, this is what I interpret as playful. Is this what you had in mind? Before then jumping into Figma and knocking out wireframes or putting together wireframes that might be completely wrong, because you've had an interpretation of what those 3 words mean, but actually everyone else doesn't. So yeah, completely agree with you there. And is there anything else in the kind of first section of working with a client that you think maybe Webflowers skip? Because I think a lot of people, watch the Webflow University videos and stuff, but they're not necessarily thinking there's a lot of kind of alignment things that might go wrong with an actual Webflow client project unless you've done this preliminary stuff really solidly. So is there anything else in this preliminary period before actually jumping into design and dev that you think Webflowers might be overlooking?
Maybe time estimates, and this sort of like structuring your process, because we talked about the first phase of design research, etc. But before that, there should be a common level of understanding on what will we be doing step by step. So I would say like try to minimize this sort of I'll figure it out. I mean, it's natural that you're figuring out, but your client shouldn't feel like you're figuring that. In a way that clients expect, again, to be guided, and they super appreciate usually if they are guided the correct way. So, and it just like you wouldn't want, let's say you want you have a new house and you want new kitchen furniture, right? You would like to know, like how long will it last, and how it's being made, etc. And like how, like, is this person going to be responsive or not? How are they doing this, etc. So clients need to have it, and they need to feel secure with the process. So I would say, spend your time and effort aligning your process, but also explaining your process to the client, because you can have amazing process. If you don't explain it well, it will be only partially helpful, because your client will be like, where are we? And then the second thing, I would say that the process is one thing, but the second thing is the ability to estimate the time effort, because I think what people do often, and again, it's natural, is to underestimate the time that it will take to produce something, because we sort of, we see that, oh, this is 5 pages, should be pretty typical layout, some animations, that's easy, it will take this and this. And then sometimes people forget that you have all sorts of iterations in between, communication. At every Webflow project I had was a stage when I was like, I wasn't expecting this. I was like, I thought this would be straightforward, and then I have this weird Safari bug, or I have this weird thing that I now need to Google instead of like doing something else, etc., etc. So I would say, like, think through this, include this in your time estimates, and always like have some buffer time. So if you feel like something will take 10 days, don't say it will take 10 days, because it will probably take more.
Great advice there. Yeah. So structure your process, make sure that you have a really clear understanding of what your process is so that you can guide the client through that process, explain what your process is so that everyone is on board with the system that you're going to be doing throughout the project. Maybe even book in calls throughout the project in advance so that everyone knows at what stage they should have got copy for you, images for you, whatever. And include buffer time in the project to ensure that there are no mishaps. Couldn't agree more. Gold dust dropped from you there, Ben. So tell me about failure number 3, trying to be good at everything and expecting that from yourself.
This one I'm still struggling with at the moment. It got better, but it's still a struggle. I'm happy to admit it. I think it comes from loving what you do, because like, if you love what you do, then you care about this. If you care about this, then you probably want to be good at this. And it's natural, right? But the IT industry is pretty unique in the speed at which it's growing. Because, like, I don't know about you, but I feel overwhelmed very often, because I will open up my laptop, and I'm seeing all the things that I want to learn, and I know I don't have the time for it. And it creates it creates a lot of questions, but the fundamental one, for me at least, was that, let's say on the hypothetical scale from 0 to 10, let's say I feel like I want to be 9 out of 10 Webflow developer in terms of the skill set, right? That's my ambition. And then I start to think, how many things would I need to learn to reach that ambition of mine? And then I start to think, how much should I sacrifice for it? How big of a portion of your life? And then, like, do I want to do this? And this is super difficult, because if you love what you do, but then you don't want it to take 100% of your life, right? You want to hang out with friends, you want to experience things, you want to travel, you want different things. And it's just hard. It's hard to accept if you want to be this hypothetical 9 out of 10. It's hard to accept that you just like leave some of it on the table and be okay with being 8 out of 10, right? It's not an easy thing to do. And I think like a few days ago, I sat down and I wrote all the things that I know I want to do or learn. I just wrote a list. I took a notebook. I wrote a list. Some of it was pretty small. Some of it was like big topics to learn. And then I wrote it down, and I literally like wrote down to myself, "You are crazy." I wrote it to myself. If you think you're going to learn all of this like soon or in a like few months, you're crazy. And it's just like I wrote it down, I prioritized it, and I wrote, don't jump into number 3 before you learn
Complete.
number 1 and number 2. Yeah. So I think you have to build correct expectations from yourself, because it just like my point of view is that it's impossible to be good at everything you want to be good at. If you care about your job and you love it, it's just not possible. I would have to probably breathe and live Webflow like daily, including weekends. And even then, I would probably not be good at everything I want to be good at.
So let's put this into the context of a Webflower that's starting out, or someone that aspires to be a Webflow developer. Obviously, there's a myriad of different things that, it would be good to know. But where would you start if you were someone that aspired to be a Webflow freelancer? What part of web design and web development would you tackle first?
If I had like zero previous experience, right?
Say you had a full-time job and you could only work on this in the evenings and the weekends to develop skill sets.
Okay. Okay. So I would start first by not learning Webflow. So I would start first by learning on the dev side HTML and CSS fundamentals, and on the design side UX and web design patterns. So you have like the, again, awareness of design patterns, of usability, and of how the websites and web layouts are built, because they're built at the end of the day it's just HTML and CSS, whether you're doing Webflow or not Webflow. And then once you do it, I would start learning Webflow as a tool, understanding the logic of how Webflow works as a tool. And then I would say just like keep focusing on fundamentals. And once you feel like you know fundamentals well, then it's a moment to sort of, list all the things out, and then just, be picky and sort of, pick your niche. This is this cool stuff, this cool stuff, this cool stuff. And, but I wouldn't just like, I wouldn't jump on learning Webflow by, for example, like learning just animations, but leaving other important stuff on the table, etc., etc. Unless you're the artist or creative guy and you feel like this is the only way that it can be interesting for you. Because if what I said, that learning HTML, CSS or design, if this is just too boring and you'll be like, it will be discouraging. Yeah. Then you can start by learning the fun part and just, come back to the fundamentals later. But what I would like to stress is that fundamentals are most important thing anyway.
Yep.
So you won't skip it. Sooner or later you'll have to learn this stuff.
I wish I did what you did, what you just described, but I didn't do that. And I have messed up projects because I thought knowing Webflow was enough, or at least I thought I could build what the client wanted me to build in Webflow. But then once you've built it in the Webflow designer and it works in the Webflow designer, and then you hit publish and you open it on Safari or whatever, you realize that actually you have not got the fundamentals in place. And I am now doing HTML and CSS courses, having done client projects with Webflow, which might sound like the stupidest thing, but it kind of is a little bit silly how it's happened for me, and what I wish I studied the fundamentals. But what I did do, like you've talked about, is the studying the design patterns. And to do that, if anyone wants a kind of a tip on that, it's look at websites that you really like and just overlay in Figma. If you screenshot them and then you just go into Figma and type over the top so that you have the exact lettering spacing and you have the exact photo sizes and stuff, and just see what the spacing is between stuff, see how different layouts look, and try and understand how they work, so that if you were to do a design, you have those kind of fundamentals in place from a very practical point of view. And I think that's a really, really good way to kind of see how things work and why do things look good. And just if you screenshot that, take it into Figma, and then overlay stuff, I think that's a really helpful way. But yeah, Ben, wish I did that stuff from the fundamental side of things in dev, because that would have saved me a lot of stress. Okay, quick fire questions. We have got, in the last few minutes, a few questions from the Webflow community. One from Matt Evans. Can you tell us about the net benefits of moving from Poland to Ireland? Given that many of us work remotely these days, have you found any upsides or downsides, especially on the work front?
Yeah, for sure. We actually met with Matt and Aylin. So, hi guys. It was their class. Very, very, very cool. Very cool guys. So, I'm not sure if I understand the question 100%. Does it mean? Yeah.
Has moving from Poland to Ireland affected your work in any way?
Okay. Yes and no, I would say, because I'm still cooperating with the Polish clients, but not only with Polish clients. I would say it definitely helped me to become more active in the Webflow community, because in Poland, Webflow is only, we only have a handful of people doing this, and it's not super active. So I think it was a good push to be out there in the community more. So in terms of that, I think it would be helpful, but I wouldn't say that just out of moving countries, that project wise suddenly it
went through the roof.
It looks different. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. What is the most underrated skill for a Webflower?
Communication.
Boom. Listen to the start of this episode if you want to know more and you've just jumped into this live stream. Best tool that people should know but don't.
Well, people from outside IT, Notion. People from IT who know Notion already. Oh, that's difficult. Maybe Raindrop. If you're a designer, right? Like Raindrop has been a game changer for me. This is essentially like a mood boarding tool. So right now, for example, like if I do mood boarding, I have hundreds probably by now of websites bookmarked and tagged in Raindrop. So I can pick, let's say I need premium, elegant website with an interesting typography. Then I'll just like, boom, premium, elegant typography. And I have 40 websites ready to go because I bookmarked them earlier.
Previously.
As I was doing. Yeah. So Raindrop.
Awesome. I'll be checking that out after this. Best music to Webflow to?
Ooh. Best music to Webflow to is the music you enjoy. So it's different for everybody.
Heavy metal.
No, but actually I can give you one. I've been Webflowing a lot to Tina Riven. This is like the African traditional music blended with rock and played on electric guitars. Amazing band.
Okay. African guitars blended with rock.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, why not?
You're going to be developing really fast to that, I imagine. Who is your ideal client?
My ideal client is a good human being. That's the first thing. And then my ideal client respects my expertise, and my ideal client knows the value of the good design. It doesn't matter which type of company it is, which size of company it is, what type of website it is, but it matters who the people in that company are. So for me, it's more important that I work with people I align with than with, industries or companies I align with.
Great answer. How do you get your first Webflow jobs? The hot question.
How do you get, or how did I get?
How did you get, and would you recommend that lead generation?
My first Webflow jobs came through working in design teams. So I would just, I would advocate for Webflow, and then suddenly, there is a website, and maybe I can do it in Webflow. So I would say it's pretty unusual. And again, it came from like working in a team before. And is it a good way? It depends where you're coming from. If you're coming from a setup where you're, a designer in a team, a marketer in a team, then yes, I would think is a good way, because you can advocate and you can just like jump on projects. If you're a freelancer, I'd say just like keep networking and keep connecting with people. So I wouldn't say that, jump on Fiverr and then your Fiverr project is the best way to go. It is one option, but I would say that just keep meeting people, and then the project would probably come sooner or later, just by knowing people. Referrals are underrated, I think.
Agreed. I've just put in the chat a Webflail article. It's 20 strategies to get more Webflow clients. So check that out if you want a more in-depth answer there and different options. But essentially, as Ben says, there is no one way to get clients. If you're already working in a company and you're like, hey, guys, Webflow, potentially you've got your first client right there. So, but yeah, if you're just starting out, doing websites for family and friends and making sure that you have a really tight process and you're going to have a portfolio from that, is a very common way that people start and go from there. I love you too, Icarus. Thanks, Jack. Love you too, mate. Perfect. A couple more questions here. How did you develop your design aesthetic?
Good one. Probably, well, first of all, just by looking at websites. So I think that's what we all try to do. So we try to surround ourselves with good website examples. So, that's why we have all those website directories, collections. People try to, create their own libraries of websites, and this is all good. And I definitely did that. And then the second thing, again, I will keep mentioning it everywhere. My design mentor helped me a ton with like analyzing why good websites are good websites, and then just by having conversations with him, then I think you pick up after a while of what works for what, why this layout works, why this layout doesn't work, and you develop an eye for it. But one last thing about this, there are no shortcuts. It's time. You develop an eye to it, but it needs time. It's not something tangible you can just learn over 3 weeks and be comfortable with that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a kind of subconscious thing of when you're looking at tons and tons of good work, then your work kind of is obviously influenced by the work that you're looking at, and you kind of develop your aesthetic from there. How do you deal with imposter syndrome? / do you deal with imposter syndrome?
I think I was about to say the easiest way, but there's no easy way. I would say that first of all, getting out of your screen is the first way, because it just, people try to deal with it on a mental level, and sometimes I feel like it's maybe more effective to just like
Switch
like
off.
switch off. Like, don't trying to playing mind games of
With your mind. Yeah.
with your mind, because it's natural that you may feel this way if you care about what you're doing. It's natural. So I'd say just more time off screen and more time meeting people who do what you do, because then you see the real image, because social media is like the best virtual reality game ever invented.
Yeah.
It just, social media is a game, and we see the fraction of what it looks like, and people share only what they want to share.
Yeah.
Including us, right?
Yeah.
So I would say, meet other people, get out of your screen. Yeah.
Great advice. Ben, are you ready for the final question?
Let's go.
All right, this is the hardest question I've asked you. What is your next failure going to be?
I have no idea.
Well, thanks everyone for watching. No,
you won't let me do it, right?
No, I want you to give me something.
Okay, fair enough. Probably my next failure would be trying to do too many things at the same time. That's usually it.
Okay, well, I'm excited to talk to you next time about that. It sounds like you are taking on a lot, but you're also very consciously self-reflecting. So I think hopefully you'll manage that tension well.
Hopefully.
If there's anything to take away from this episode, I think that is the big one: to take a little bit of time for yourself to reflect on where you're at And actually congratulate yourself as well. I think too often we're like, right, straight on with the next thing. And actually it's important just to say, you're doing all right. You're doing all right. So yeah, give yourself some credit. Thank you so much, Ben, for sharing your nuggets of wisdom with us today and giving us some really, really interesting advice there. Got a last, in fact, I'm going to end on this question because I think this is a really nice question. What is your advice for non-native speakers?
Ooh, oh, I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah, sorry, it kind of came left field there from.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the way I dealt with this is at some point I stopped being shy about speaking, because speaking is a big part, because you can know your other language well, but you can be still super shy to speak because you feel like you can be judged, that your accent is weird or something like this. So the moment you stop caring about this, it opens up, big doors. And I would say just surround yourself with the language you want to learn. Start reading in this, watching in this, speaking in this, try even thinking in this language. And then if you keep repeating it and keep having conversations with natives, then they'll be pleasantly surprised with your accent. And I didn't have a single experience when somebody just was like approaching me badly because of my accent. People are typically pleasantly surprised that you're trying and you're doing your best. So yeah, you can be pretty chilled about this, really.
Great. Thank you, Icarus, for the question. Thank you, Ben, for the nuggets. This episode will be on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts next week on Monday. But obviously, there's the live recording here, so you can go back and go through and check whatever you want to check. If you haven't already, sign up to the Webflail Roundup. That's at webflail.com to get all of this good stuff from Ben direct into your inbox on Tuesday, along with an article, 3 Webflow jobs, and 3 inspirational websites. Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you to anyone that's watching along live now, and keep on failing.
Thanks so much.
Bye, all. Great stuff.